My brother, Eddie, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Axe brother. Yeah, represent.
2017?
Yeah. Oh, we were in the first batch at St. Faustina.
That's right. Yeah, we're old school. We go way back.
As if 2017 was a long time ago. Well, with COVID and everything, it does feel like it was forever ago.
Forever.
Now, speaking about long ago, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So you're not from Houston?
I am not from Houston. No, I am not.
Pittsburgh?
Yes, sir. Huge Steeler fan.
Oh, until now. Or
I root for the Texans,
when they're good. You grew up in Pittsburgh. Were you always Catholic?
I was born cradle Catholic. But at best a creaster. So to answer your question, yes, I was always a Catholic, but not really.
Not really.
It was just a cultural thing.
Okay, so not even Christmas or...
It depends on the year, right?
Oh,
There's some
okay.
years we didn't go Christmas or Easter, and some years we did, and but overall, I grew up not even knowing how to pray the Our Father or Hail Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
As a cradle Catholic,
Yeah.
you were baptized and everything, but so no faith formation classes at all?
My brother and I used to skip CCE.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just wasn't important in our family life, obviously, and it wasn't until later on that I had an epiphany-like experience. But growing up, Jesus really didn't mean that much to us, unfortunately.
Were your parents just too busy, or what was that? What was your home life like?
It wasn't a top priority. We weren't busy, because I wasn't involved in like a lot of sports on the weekends back then. Like when you're 10 years old. Just my mom and my stepdad had other priorities, and church wasn't one of them.
Okay, so you got your mom, your stepdad, your brother. Do you have any other siblings?
So I'm the youngest. I have an older sister, Jennifer, older brother, Chuck. They're 7 and 5 years older than me. And they are my half siblings.
Okay.
So they are biological. We all have our mom in common.
Okay. And your dad, you said your stepdad, is your dad out of the picture?
It's kind of a crazy situation. My dad passed away when I was a month old.
Oh.
Yes. And my mom was a single mom for the first 5 years of my life. And then she met my stepdad, and we were living in the inner city of Pittsburgh then, and they got married, and then we moved out to the suburbs.
Now, your biological father, was he Catholic?
Yes, he was German Catholic. But I don't really know too much about my dad because of him passing away, and he was number 7 of 10 children.
Wow.
But they just really never liked my mom, and so I grew up really not knowing any of my Lowen aunts and uncles and any of those cousins. So they were, when my dad died, it was kind of like the whole family.
The cord was cut from the family. Okay.
Yes.
So do you ever wonder sometimes what your faith life would have been like growing up had your dad not died?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think it would have been drastically different. I really believe in a positive male role model. That influence can really shape our culture and our society and our family lives. And I think I wouldn't have had any excuses not to, not go to church or not pray if I had a strong fatherly figure.
How bad was it? Like, was it just not going to church, or did it go way past that?
Well, I celebrated my first Holy Communion. So my grandpap was a very devout Catholic.
Okay. And this is your mom's?
My mom's dad.
Okay.
Yes. And my mom's sister lived with my grandpap, and she was very faith-filled as well.
Okay.
Who was my godmother. So I did have some faith life influence.
Okay.
But it was minimal. They lived in Pittsburgh, and I would see him probably once a month, but that's just not enough.
Yeah, you can't get a whole lot when you. So did you and your siblings kind of really sway? Did you get into a lot of trouble growing up?
Yes. So my mom, she's the youngest of 5.
Okay.
And she just made some really bad choices when she was 16, 17 years old.
Okay.
She got pregnant with my sister at 17 and then was forced to marry that guy who was 2 years older than her. And it was a real rough situation there.
Because that was the practice at the time. You're pregnant, you have to get married.
That's right.
You have to.
My grandpa was old school like that from Sicily, right? So, that was the only choice that she had, but he was very abusive. And he got addicted to drugs, hardcore drugs.
The husband, the first husband.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
My sibling's dad, right? And it got so bad that their dad committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was only 24 years old at the time.
24 years old and commits suicide because he's like into hardcore drugs.
Yes.
Did he say why he committed suicide? Because it was just too much, he couldn't handle it, or?
I think that there was a history of depression and on his side of the family, and having two kids close together, a year and a half apart, at 19, 21 years old.
I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just too much for him, and he didn't know how he was going to provide, or
Yeah, and he's in a marriage with somebody who he probably doesn't know that well.
That's right.
And yeah, that's a lot of things to throw into the mix.
Yes.
For somebody, in the early 20s to handle.
Yes.
He commits suicide and your mom's left alone.
Correct.
With two kids.
So then she is on welfare. She's living in the inner city and meets my dad.
Okay.
Right? And misery loves company, I guess, right? Abuse attracts abuse. And so she finds my dad, who's very abusive.
Oh.
Yes. Into drugs as well.
Oh, so it's not a situation like this guy could have been fantastic. It's another round of the cycle.
That's right. She couldn't break the cycle. Right? So, yeah, she hooks up with my dad, has me out of wedlock. And a month after I was born, 1980, September 6, 1980, my dad was also addicted to drugs.
Oh, no.
And he passed away of a cocaine addiction, heart attack.
Wow. Second one. Now, was your mom into drugs as well? Was there a risk of you guys being born addicted?
She wasn't addicted to drugs. However, she's an alcoholic.
Oh.
She's now a recovering alcoholic.
Okay.
Which at the end of the
Thank
story,
God.
there's a lot of redemption, right? But at the time, there was, a gloom and doom type situation.
Yeah, it's a long, rough road. Of course.
Yes. Just the power of how choices can really alter your life drastically. And
so how old was she when she had you?
She was 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 3 kids at 25. Single.
Yes.
Right after my dad. And then single for, another 5 years until she met our stepdad.
Wow.
Yes.
So she's just holding things together. And like you said, you were on welfare.
Yes.
Inner city.
Yep.
So growing up, you said you didn't have the best male role models. So who did you look up to, you and your brother and your sister?
I had, my brother was everything to me, being 5 years older. So, we did everything together. I had my grandpap. He was really good, but he was a lot older,
Yes.
Just to let you know, like when he passed away, he was 89 years old. That's when I was 12. So he was a lot older as a grandparent.
Yes.
Right. But to answer your question, I really didn't have any fatherly figures other than my brother for those formative years.
So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind.
Yes.
And you guys got into trouble, I suppose.
Big time. Yeah. My sister and brother got into a lot of trouble because, my mom at the time, she was just bar hopping and leaving the responsibilities to Jennifer to watch us. Right? I mean, Jen was like 10 years old and,
And your mom's out at the bar.
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah. So my sister and brother see that type of lifestyle. They don't have any fatherly figure. They don't have any positive role models. And so what are you going to do? You're seeking love, right? So
Yes.
they look for love in all the wrong places. My sister gets caught up in the same vicious cycle as my mom of all these abusive type men, right? And my brother becomes this playboy, and it's all about, his next conqueror, so to speak.
And this is in their teens, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but this is but it started at like 8 years old.
Really?
Yeah. Of just having this type of mentality.
Wow.
It was just all about yourself, right? Like you're just going to do what you're going to do. There's no respect for authority. So you're going to break the law. You're going to steal what you need to steal.
Whatever feels good.
Whatever feels good.
Hedonistic lifestyle. Huh?
That's right. Yeah. Because you're seeking love. And at the time, I didn't know that, but yeah, so that's how we grew up. That was kind of the mindset.
So shoplifting, I suppose.
Yep.
Skipping school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. School was not a priority. Nobody helped us with our homework or there wasn't any of that, sitting down at the kitchen table, read books. I never went to a library growing up.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Did your mom ever have any when she'd get on the wagon and just try to hit the straight and narrow for a while and then just fall off the wagon, or was it really just consistent?
It was just consistent, unfortunately. She didn't find AA until I was 12 years old after her dad passed away.
Oh.
That's when it was kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
But until then, she was just consistently drinking a bottle of wine every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any relatives say, okay, we got to take these kids away? Or really there was nobody that could do it? Or?
I had my Aunt Arlene, the oldest, and she was very responsible, my godmom. Mm-hmm. She would do that. I would sleep at her house, but it just caused so much controversy and commotion, and she just didn't want to really get in the middle of.
Did your mom get mad at her?
That's yes, big time.
Wow.
Just screaming at her and causing a scene. The police were called. And
really?
Yeah.
Just because she wanted to take you while your mom was out at a bar.
That's right.
She'd take you and your siblings in, and then your mom would get mad.
Oh yeah, she called CPS a few times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like accusing your aunt of kidnapping you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then my aunt would call CPS on her for being an unfit mother. And so it was just this big, just terrible, nightmarish situation.
I'm sure it got worse after your grandfather died because, he probably played the referee for a while, huh?
He did. But being so much older, I think he just kind of lost his energy level.
Yeah.
And just prayed for peace.
And then so you said your mom found AA.
Yes, she did.
But were you guys in like really deep trouble at that point?
Well, we were with my stepdad.
Okay.
So, our needs were being provided for.
Basic needs.
Basic needs. I didn't never have to worry about, my clothes or food or that stuff. I could do extracurriculars. I played a lot of sports. So that was good. But my spiritual needs weren't really met, and my emotional needs weren't met from my stepdad. My mom, once she went into AA, she got sober for like a year and then, fell off the bandwagon. And it was pretty much in and out for the next, 10 years, right?
Yeah, because it's a journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And now she has 22 years sobriety. So she's doing great, right? But then it was a rock. It was just a Rocky Mountain type situation.
And what was it like for you and your siblings having to see her go through that?
Terrible. You see the ambulance come get her, and she goes to some psych ward, and then my stepdad is just he's just drunk the whole time, or he's not home. And so we just there was just times, like there was a couple Christmases where I had to spend Christmas with my friends' families.
Wow.
You know? So I was very fortunate in that sense that I had, once we moved to the suburbs and especially middle school years, right? I developed some really key friendships, and their parents really took me under their wing. And that's when it started changing ever so slightly for me. My priorities were out of whack still, but at least I had love. I had support. I had people who, you know, told me that they were proud of me and that they loved me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you saw what it's supposed to be like.
That's right.
Right? It doesn't have to be like this. There are families that spend time with each other.
Yes.
That, you know, that support each other, that care for each other. Wow. So what was your stepfather like to you? You said he was drunk all the time. So did he just like ignore you most of, or?
He was very like verbally abusive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when my sister was living with us, you know, there was times that, you know, he would be so drunk that he would try to like hit us.
Wow.
But, you know, being that my brother's 5 years older and Jen's 7, you know, they were like 18 years old and they could really defend themselves.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so then it got real hostile.
Oh.
You know, because I was like 10 or 11. I couldn't really do anything.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But they would protect me because he would try to come after me because I was the weak one.
Yeah. The one who's less likely to fight back.
That's right.
Wow.
Did
they ever, since they were older, did they ever get, you know, threatened to get kicked out of the house or something like that?
Oh, all the time. You know, all the time. They ran away from home. They both did. You know, they got sent to juvenile delinquent centers, and, you know, they were kind of at-risk kids. You know, looked upon as another statistic. But yeah, so, you know, there was a lot of times that they were in and out and I was by myself, and, you know, I just tried to really avoid going home. So
so when they were gone, you took a lot of that hostility from your stepfather.
Yes, but the amazing thing was that I was allowed to sleep over my friend's house like anytime. So, you know, I went that route.
So you were at friends' houses a lot.
All the time.
And their parents knew what your situation was like, I'm sure.
Yes, they did.
So they were more than happy to take you in.
Absolutely. I have a lot of surrogate parents, you know. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
So when you moved to the suburbs, you said you saw a lot of that. What about your brother and sister? Did they get influenced by any of that, or were they a little too far gone in, you know, delinquency?
I think they were a little too far gone. My brother really had a conversion-like experience. When he was 15, he started working at this deli, right, in our local suburb. And so the owner of the deli was a fatherly figure to him and really mentored him a lot, okay? And he got Chuck on the straight and narrow path for like 3 years.
Oh.
And so Chuck graduates from high school. He's applying to colleges.
That's fantastic.
He was this heavy metal type kid with real long hair, and changed his life around completely. Cut his hair, was this clean cut, preppy kid.
Wow.
Yes, and you would never know. Looking at him, he's, you know, he had everything going for him. He was just such a good looking guy, charismatic, and yeah. So he was going to school, and then when my sister, Jennifer, just went off the deep end, got caught up with prostitution and hardcore drugs.
Oh, really? It was that bad?
It was that bad.
Wow.
She left the house. She moved to New York City and just got caught up in that lifestyle. And when she died, June 6th of 1997 of a heroin overdose, Chuck just basically lost his will to live because they were so close.
Oh, yeah, because they'd been through so much together.
So much. And he just got caught up in the same drugs and situation that Jen was into.
He just, fell back into it, huh?
He hardcore, just, following the Grateful Dead and, just was just caught up in that type of lifestyle, traveling the country and to all these like Fish concerts and, just getting caught up in that LSD and,
wow. So your sister, she went off to New York, and did you just not hear from her? And then you just got the news that she had died? Is that what happened? Or
we would hear from her, maybe twice a month.
Okay.
She would come back and visit.
Mm-hmm.
But, my mom, even though my mom, was into the alcoholism, obviously she didn't condone Jen's type of behavior. So when Jen would come back to the house, there was a lot of arguing, and so that's why we only heard from her once or twice a month.
Because she just wanted to avoid those arguments. Yeah. What about your brother, who was at that time on the straight and narrow? Did he try to reel your sister in?
He tried. We all did. But I think the money was just too attractive to her. I remember my brother telling me from an early age that he always felt destined to fall into the same footsteps of his dad.
Wow.
I know. That's crazy, right?
Think that
early on in your life.
Yeah.
That you're only, there's no hope, right? So I'm made to live the same way and to ultimately to die the same way,
Did you ever get caught up in that kind of stuff that your sister and brother did with the drugs and the alcohol and because there, some people think there is a genetic component to addiction, so
sure. I think God spared me early on. I think God has always had a real special plan for my life. He's put a lot of incredible people in my life to really help protect me, to spare me from a lot of the chaos. I got caught up in the basics of, weed and alcohol.
But nothing hardcore like what they got into.
Never. I've never done any type of hardcore drug. I think I was always so afraid of what had happened to my siblings.
Oh, because you saw them go off the deep end.
That's right. I saw them spiritually just deteriorate, right? And become lost and just,
And maybe when you were old enough to try it, you already had those examples of your friends' families who had a healthy lifestyle.
Yes. And I started getting real involved in the sports then. So that was kind of my way out of this type of mindset.
Yeah, you can't be an alcoholic and be good on the basketball court.
No.
Was basketball your thing? Or
basketball was my thing. Going into 7th grade, it became my life. That was my sanctuary. I would escape all the family problems and just go down to the neighborhood park and play for hours, right? Just to get away from my stepdad. And so that became my sole focus, was to get a college scholarship, and that's how I was going to get out of this like low life mentality, right?
And then your brother, you said that he thought that he was destined for that. What happened with him?
So he just never recovered. He never recovered once Jen died in 1996. For a year and a half, he went off the deep end. And he made some really poor choices of not going to college. He gave up. He had a really solid group of friends who supported him when he had made those initial changes.
Yeah.
And he just made some really, 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 really bad friends.
I mean, he was right there.
He was right
3
there.
3 years on the straight and narrow.
He was taking me to church. Right. And there was a whole interview. He was on KDKA Pittsburgh News. They interviewed my brother because he had this huge turnaround. Right. He had skipped school like 120 20 times in 1 year. And he was crazy. He was fighting every kid. He was, he just had so much anger and aggression in him. And then, he totally has this epiphany-like experience. And now he's doing his math work and he's focused at school and, and he's got his priorities straight. He, got involved with track and baseball and, so yeah, it was just crazy that he was so close. But by the choices that he made kind of, altered his path.
He wasn't, emotionally equipped to deal with the loss of your sister, huh?
No, he was not. He didn't have nearly the support system that I had. And that's really the difference.
Yeah, and he was much older too, so he was a little more far gone than you were.
Yes, he's seen things that that I didn't. He heard things that I didn't hear. So
yeah, that's harder. Like things that you probably didn't notice. He was old enough to understand.
That's right.
And wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow,
it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
So what happened with him?
So what happened with him was October 27th of 1997. He was addicted to crack, and he just had so much guilt and shame for Jen's death. He blamed himself a lot, and he took his own life.
Wow.
I was 17 at the time, a junior in high school. And that was the moment, Rudy, where I felt the Holy Spirit really for the first time in my life. I felt God, the Father, really wrapping his arms around me, that he had a plan for my life and was going to spare me from all this lifestyle dysfunction.
Because you could have easily gone the same route as your brother.
Yes, I could have.
You could have switched off of that narrow path and gone into another, cycle of self-destruction the way your brother did.
Yes. But I had good people in my life. Even though my priorities were backwards, I still had good people who were really in my corner, supporting me, encouraging me. If I needed anything, they had my back. He didn't have that, and it was too much for him,
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to rewind back to, you said when you felt, the Holy Spirit embrace you, and protect you when you found out your brother died. What was that like? How did you feel that? Was it a sensation? Was it?
It was a sensation. It was in my room when I was at home. I had not gone to school that day. I wasn't feeling well. And when the police officer came and knocked on the door and told my mom and I what had happened to Chuck, I went in my room and I knelt down, and I'm getting emotional right now.
Of course.
I cried out to God and I said, God, I can't do this. The pain is too much. It's too devastating. I need you. I need you to show me that you are real and that everything's going to be okay. And that's when I felt this like warm summer, like wind / embrace over me. I'd never felt anything like that before. And I had like a deep sense of peace, even in the midst of just hearing that my brother committed suicide. Didn't make any sense, So I had a moment there where my sadness was lifted, and I had hope for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the midst of the worst news.
Worst news ever.
You're still dealing with your sister's death.
Yes.
Because, a year and a half's not a whole lot of time.
No.
And then your brother, but yet you still feel that peace.
I don't know how else to describe it, Rudy. It just gave me so much hope. I just knew that I was going to be healed of this. It was going to be a journey of being healed but I knew that he had a calling for me, that I'm supposed to help other troubled kids who go through these type of things, don't have a fatherly figure, that I need to be that for them. I'm at 17. I don't know anything, but that's when I really felt the Holy Spirit. And that's why I thought that God was calling me to the priesthood, because I had this experience where I seen how my sins really shatter the Lord's heart, and I couldn't make any sense of it. I'm like, I'm 17. Why am I having an experience like this? I must be called to the priesthood. And so that's when I started really just getting very serious about my faith.
So he takes his own life. Your sister's, is that what triggers your mom to kind of, get herself together?
Initially, yes. So I had a St. Paul-like conversion. And when I had mine, I brought my mom back to confession. She hadn't been to confession in 25 years. And at that moment, we started praying the rosary every night together. This is a junior in high school. Right?
And you're telling your mom, you're pulling her.
That's right.
Into praying the rosary.
Yes.
Wow.
And that drastically changed our lives. My mom and I, to this day, we have a nickname for each other. I'm peanut butter, she's jelly. and that's how close we were, right? My stepdad was a recovering alcoholic then, but he was a dry drunk.
What is that?
That means that he didn't practice AA, the 12 steps. He didn't go to any meetings. He didn't really take personal inventory and really try to work on himself.
Okay.
He was just kind of white knuckling it, so to speak.
Okay. So you just went cold turkey.
He went cold turkey and just was still angry as could be, right? He just wasn't drinking. So that really bonded my mom and I together, right? So then we fast forward, and it's the next year. It's my senior year, right before prom. And my stepdad cheats on my mom.
Oh.
Okay. And tells her that he's leaving her.
Okay.
Okay. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. My mom had a nervous breakdown, and she was hospitalized for 4 months. At this time, I had already been accepted into Franciscan University of Steubenville because I thought I was going to become a priest.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a whole other story. That we can
we'll get into that. Yeah.
And so I wanted to study theology and philosophy. Anyways, so I'm going, the summer months, I'm going every day to visit my mom in the hospital. And there's two major people in my life, positive male role models, Catholic male role models. The first was he just passed away. His name's Father Tony Gargata, and he was a seminarian at the time. And when my mom got hospitalized, I had met Tony. It's a crazy story. Anyways, he was the seminarian at my parish.
Okay.
Because my mom and I started going to mass every Sunday now, right?
So he was assigned to your parish.
That's right.
What parish was this?
This is St. Louise de Marillac in Pittsburgh. And so my buddy and I were running this Bible study, this teen Bible study for the youth group. And Tony got involved at the Bible study. So I got connected with him. Anyways, lo and behold, he starts taking me to see my mom every day at the hospital. Because I didn't drive. I didn't have a car at the time.
Okay.
And he didn't really even know me. He met me one other time.
He saw a kid in need who needed to see his mom.
Yes. And he is the one. He was the pillar in my life. He reached out to me. He evangelized me even more, and was that big brother, fatherly figure.
I'm sure you had some conversations in the car on the way to the hospital on the way back where he,
Oh, he's the one who taught me about Catholic manhood, because up until that point, I didn't know anything, So anyways, he's super influential in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Mom gets out. I go to Franciscan, and everything's good. That's when my mom got sober after that point.
So this was it.
This is it. 2000.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Spring of 2000 is when she got sober.
Do you ever think about what might have happened if this seminarian didn't, wasn't part of your life? Didn't help you out like that?
There's another person in my life who was super influential as well.
Uh-huh.
His name is Father Kim Schreck for the Diocese of Pittsburgh. He's 2 years older than me. We went to high school together.
Okay.
He went to Franciscan as well.
Okay.
So his family basically adopted me. Okay. So I used to bully Kim. Yeah, his name's Kim.
Okay.
Right. And after Chuck passed away, Kim reached out to me and invited me to go on a retreat.
And this is after you bullied him.
There was one day coming out of health class, 10th grade year. He was always like very religious. He was into like Young Life at the time. And so,
Okay.
right, he was just very devout, and I wasn't.
So
And
you'd make fun of him.
I made fun of him all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I slammed him up against the locker, and I was like ready to just like, destroy him.
Uh-huh.
And fast forward the next year, and he's the one who reaches out to me to go on this Young Life retreat.
Wow.
And that's where it all happened for me initially.
And how old were you?
I was 17.
And he was...
It was a month after Chuck committed suicide.
Wow.
That I went on this retreat. And from that point on, the Schreck family has become my second family.
Wow.
So to answer your question, to get back to Father Tony, the seminarian at the time, what would my life be like? It's hard to say because I had the Schrecks, right? It's the combination of the Schrecks and Tony together that really formed me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had two rocks that you could lean on that really helped you.
Yeah. Two gigantic boulders,
Wow.
Yeah.
And did he ever talk to you about why he approached you after you bullied him in high school? Like he didn't, he didn't look at you and say, well, forget this guy, but no, he looked at you and he saw a guy who needed help.
Yeah. And that was it. Yeah. That was his answer, is that he was trying to be devout. So he was listening to the promptings of the Holy Spirit. And he said that this was an opportunity to really forgive and to reach out.
Wow.
And that takes an incredible person.
Yes. Because most people would have just said, oh, well, this guy's a lost cause.
Yep.
I'm not going to reach out to him because he bullied me,
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's crazy.
I'm sure you apologized to him.
Oh, profusely.
So your mom's in the hospital. She's recovering. You've got a surrogate family plus another older brother figure that you could look up to, couple of older brother figures that you could look up to. And you said you thought about entering the seminary. Is that because of these guys?
Oh, absolutely. It was initially because of the power of the Holy Spirit that I felt during that retreat experience. And then after that happened, they just fostered that experience. Right. And they got me to really see the truths of the faith.
Now, how far did you go into, because I know you're married now.
Yes.
So obviously that didn't work out. How far in the process did you go?
I never officially went to the seminary.
Okay.
But, I majored in theology at Franciscan. And while I was there, I visited the Capuchin Friars of the Renewal in the Bronx, New York.
Okay.
5 times. That was Father Benedict Grichel's order.
Okay.
Right? And they are hardcore, extreme poverty. you know.
That's not the same one as Father Stan.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's same ones.
Yes, the guy who was at Father David Michael's last concert.
That's right.
Who played the drums and he rapped and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The
So it's the same.
CFRs.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anyways, I kind of explored that route and went to, a retreat for the Diocese of Pittsburgh, vocations retreat and other religious orders. And, but yeah, so I explored that for about 3 years, really.
But none of them stuck.
None of them stuck. In the whole midst of doing this, I just felt that God was calling me to break the cycle within my family life and to start my own family.
Okay.
To be the father that I didn't have.
Uh-huh.
And so, Sarah and I have been married now for going to be 13 years and have 3 beautiful daughters.
Did you meet her in college?
She's a Franciscan grad as well.
Okay.
This story is it's wild. We had different circle of friends in college. I was really good friends with her best friend. Anyways, so I'm a youth minister in Detroit, Michigan for 4 years. And I was dating another Franciscan girl, long distance at the time.
And this is after
This is 2008. Okay. And things were going really well. I love this girl. Her name's Alyssa. She was living in Phoenix. So I decided to move out to Phoenix to be close to her, to CERN, Holy Matrimony. And I was there for 4 months, and I knew, Rudy, that she wasn't the one.
Okay.
I couldn't explain it. She checked all the boxes.
So on paper,
she's incredible. But I just felt that I didn't have the peace for some reason.
Okay.
So I decided to, drive across country, visit Franciscan buddies along the way. And ultimately, I'm going to go back to Pittsburgh, where I'm from. And so I'd never been to Texas. So I come to Houston for the first time, had a blast.
What brought you to Houston?
Just Franciscan friends.
Okay.
Right? That's the amazing thing about Franciscan University is everyone is from everywhere. Right? So I'm like, I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, right? Never been to Bourbon Street. So I go there. It's my last day there. It's a mutual friend of ours. Sarah's my wife's name. Her sorority sister invites Sarah to come over the last day that I'm there. And my wife is type A, okay? At the time, she was a nanny, and she wasn't going to get off work till like 6 p.m. On a Friday. Lindsay convinces Sarah. She's like, Eddie Lowen's in town. We're going to go out, bar hop, and have a great time. And convinces Sarah to come. So we had the most incredible time. It was just a purely platonic type thing, right? And the next morning, I get up and I drove to Alabama and I'm going up to Pittsburgh, right? Well, Sarah and I keep in touch, just as friends. It was honestly the first time in my life that I wasn't looking for a girlfriend because I just called off a serious relationship with Alyssa, right? And it's just amazing how God works like this, okay? Like when your heart is really open to him. And so we just kept in touch. And as we talked more, I just knew. I knew that this was the reason why I was supposed to go out to Phoenix to discern marriage with Alyssa, because I needed to meet Sarah in New Orleans. And God connected the pieces of the puzzle.
And the reason why it didn't work out at any of the places that you visited, the orders and the seminaries.
Nothing. I never had that ultimate peace. And then a month after talking to Sarah as friends, we weren't even dating, Rudy. I told her that I was going to marry her. And it freaked her out.
You told her.
I told her.
You didn't ask her. You just
told her.
I said, I'm going to marry you.
I'm going to marry you.
That's what you said.
That's what I said. I'm going to marry you.
What did she say?
Well, what could you say, right? She probably thought I was crazy. But, I knew that she liked me and, things were going, down that path to become official of dating and whatever.
I mean, you got along. You were friends.
Oh yeah, we were great. Yeah, I mean, and she came to visit me, and I came to visit her. And anyways, but so we did long distance for 8 months, and then I moved to Houston because women have the power, right? And she grew up here ever since 4th grade. Her family's from upstate New York.
And is her family Catholic?
Devout Catholic. And the rest is history, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, your mom, how does that play into that? You know, her seeing you, you know, looking into seminary or any of that, how did she react?
Oh, my mom was super supportive.
Really?
Yeah. You know, once I brought my mom back into the faith, like she was gung-ho. She was all in, you know?
Wow.
And so, yeah.
So she wasn't like, oh, I lost 2 of my kids. Now I'm going to lose another one to the cloth. No, she was.
No, she didn't have any of those type of sentiments.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And even with holy matrimony, you know, after she met Sarah, and she didn't have any of those type of feelings either of like, you know, I'm going to lose my son, right? She loved Sarah, embraced Sarah, you know, was so happy for me that I was going to break the cycle, and, you know, just was super supportive.
So you said you were a youth minister. Did you continue that when you came down here to Houston?
No. I was in the youth ministry for 4 years. And then when I came to Houston, I didn't have a job, right? So I was looking for
totally new city and everything, starting from scratch again. Yeah,
that's right. It was just love brought me down here, and it was going to work itself out. So I got a job teaching at Catholic grade school, St. Michael's in the Galleria, and I did that for 3 years, and then I went over to St. Cecilia in Memorial area. I did that for 4 years.
So it's always working with youth that you wanted to, you know, that's what you're drawn to.
Yes, but I always thought I was going to work with like troubled youth, right? Of like economically disadvantaged, right? I didn't experience that in St. Michael's and St. Cecilia. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it didn't feel like it was the true fit. I loved it. It was great. They loved me. It was a great situation. But now I feel like I have what I'm meant to do.
And now what are you doing now?
Now I work at a behavioral school for KDISD. It's a special education program, and junior high and high school combined. And I'm a PE health teacher, and it's great.
Behavioral school? Could you explain that to the people who don't really know?
So basically all the kids that are at our school have what's called emotional disturbance, and they come from real rough family lives. Okay.
So abused kids,
no fatherly figures.
So similar to your background.
Very similar to my background. Okay. And they, because of their family lives, they just get in trouble a lot at school. And those schools, their home campuses don't know what to do with them. So then they send them to
a special facility.
That's right.
Which is where you work right now.
That's right. And so I love working with these type of kids, you know, because they see pictures of like me and my wife and our daughters, and they think like I've had this like, you know, I've never suffered in my life. You know, I've always had it so easy. And Mr. Lowen, you can't relate to me. You don't know what you're talking about.
You're from the suburbs, you know, right? Yeah.
That's right. And then when I dropped the bomb about Jen and Chuck, their eyes, they are speechless. And then I feel like, you know, I've earned their respect. Like, okay.
Yeah, you got the street cred.
Yeah.
That's what you have. Yeah.
That's it.
This is somebody that they can see that, hey, he's pulled himself out of the gutter.
Yep.
Got his life together. And so you're a walking, talking example of them. For them, excuse me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, I've worked with some of the kids that you work with.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it's really challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those kids, I mean, they have no, you know, there's something in their brain that doesn't stop them from, you know, just lashing out or acting out.
Yeah.
And wow, God bless you for what you do, man.
Thank you. Verbal and physical aggression are like their two best friends.
Yeah.
You know?
And when they're at that age, it's tougher to deal with because they're bigger.
Oh, yeah. We got some big boys.
Yeah.
But, you know, I really haven't had any issues. I've had to restrain a few kids here and there the last 3 years, but, you know, it's I think it's I try to meet these kids where they're at. I think they know that I love them. I respect them. They know my story. I do PE. They love sports. So I think that helps a lot. You know, the subject matter. And I talk to them about the Lord. I do. I tell them what God has done in my life, how he's got me out of this vicious cycle. And I try to give them hope that he can do the same thing for them if they just humble themselves and invite them into their hearts. And my assistant principal, she's awesome. She told me, she's like, Eddie, I know your theological background. She's like, I want you to evangelize these kids. She's like, they need Jesus, you know? And no parent has ever given me any backlash, right?
That's good.
Yeah.
Because that's what you when you said you evangelizing these kids, I'm like, oh, maybe somebody's going to say something, but no.
Nope. The Holy Spirit's protected me.
A lot of these parents are probably, you know, will try anything at this point.
I think that I just think that God's protected me, and no kid has ever really said, you know, Eddie, Mr. Lowen, I don't want to hear about that. Don't talk to me about that. You know, I don't get that.
Wow.
I got open hearts and open minds. You know, and so that's why I feel like God put me there. That's my calling. It's a vocation. You know, so I love these kids. You know, St. John Bosco is my favorite saint.
Oh, yes.
And so, you know, I tell them about St. John Bosco. Like, ooh, what? You know?
Yeah, they probably never heard of him. Yeah.
There goes Mr. Lowen again with his, you know, Christianity. You know?
Now, your mom, you said she's been sober for 20...
It'll be 23 years
23 years now.
Yeah.
Wow. What about the relationship that with your biological family, your father's family? Has that ever mended, or
no?
Was that just
no? It never did. It never did. And you know, one of the great things that Tony the seminarian did for me is that he grew up in the same neighborhood in Pittsburgh with my. He knew one of my uncles and grew up with my cousins. And he took me over there one day and to try to get us, you know, connected. And, but they just never, for whatever reason, Rudy, they just never wanted to have a relationship, you know. And so you just have to. I tried, you know, and
you sent some feelers out. And,
yeah, I did. You know, I did that route, but
so the ball's in their court, pretty much.
It's in their court, and that's fine. You know, I'm focused on Sarah and my beautiful daughters. And, you know, I got Sarah's parents here and my mom moved down 5 years ago. No, longer than 8 years. I can't believe it's been 8 years that she's here. But, yeah, so I focus on that, you know. I got a great group of friends at St. Faustina in the men's group, you know, so our families are real tight. We're always connecting our kids and, you know, so.
A lot of the guests that we've had, they've talked about their experiences with ACTS, but you had a major experience even before. What was that like for you going into ACTS? And, you know,
I was really looking forward to it. It wasn't a situation where, you know, the wife convinces the husband to go, right?
Or makes the husband go. So you were one of the few.
Oh, I was one of the few. Like, I was all in, you know. When I heard about ACTS, I was like, yes, sign me up. You know, I just
so you
love
weren't
that
like
stuff.
me who was trying to make excuses to get out of it, huh?
No. And Sarah was super supportive because at the time our girls were very young. So that was a grind for her.
Yeah.
But no, she had my back. Like, she knew, like, this is your thing, man. You know? So that's my jam. You know.
So you were all in.
I was all in, man, because I love community. I love brotherhood. That's always been so important to me in my life because of all the different, family friends that God put in my life to lead me on the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
I just constantly want that, and I want it for my own family. So I was like, this is an opportunity to really build awesome relationships with dudes at the parish.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
Yeah.
Do any of your friends, have anybody like approached you and said, hey, could you talk to my son or my, nephew or something like that because of everything that you've been through?
I do get that. I do get that. So yeah, that's, I told Sarah the other day, and it's amazing that this all worked out for In The Pews, but I said, look, I want to give people hope, and I want an opportunity, a platform to give people that hope. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I just want to tell people my story. And she's like, well, are you going to try to get money? I'm like, no, I don't want any of that. I just want to tell people how awesome God is and that he can do amazing things for your life if you just let him. Open your heart. So she's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm just going to try to go to every youth group I can and just share the good news, share my story. It's my experience, strength, and hope. Mm-hmm. And I don't want anything, I just give me a half hour of your time, and if that's the reason why God allowed the suffering in my life to happen, so be it. It's worth it then. That's how I look at it. If I can inspire and empower other kids to get fired up for Christ, then it's worth it.
Well, thank you so much for, coming here and telling your story, and for, being open to telling your story at parishes. I've heard your talk at St. Faustina is fantastic. Thank you for, the work that you do with, with your students.
Thank you.
I mean, God bless you, brother. I mean, you're doing great stuff. I mean, what can I say?
I'm just trying to open my heart up to the Holy Spirit, and I'm just trying to get closer to the Trinity, man. That's all I'm trying to do.
One last thing.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's in a bad situation, a teenager, who's in a really bad situation and feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel? What would you say to them?
I would tell them that there's always hope, to never give up, to never stop believing, because your situation can and will get better. It's just going to have to start with you making choices. You're at the point at a crossroads. You can go to the left and these things can happen, or you can go to the right and these beautiful things can happen to you. It's your choice. And I would tell them that there are people out there who understand their situation, who can relate to them, and who can help them. And that's the advice I'd give them.
What about to a parent who's given up on a teen, who has thrown their hands up and said, I don't know what to do anymore? What would you say? That teen.
Yeah, I would tell them, in a nutshell, this is what happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
If my high school Algebra 2 teacher didn't reach out to me, if he just threw up his hands and said, I can't help this kid. He's a lost cause, right? Uh-huh. Or, my mom or whomever, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. It was because people didn't give up on me, that stayed the course, mm-hmm. that kept grinding, that I have this beautiful lifestyle now, right? It's other people in your life that make the difference.
Thank you so much. God bless you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.